Hello friends, Erica with 10 Pegs and Crowns, and welcome back to my channel. I am so excited that you are joining me today because today I'm going to bring you along in how I created this journal out of just scrap cereal boxes. It's my interpretation of a junk journal. And so last week I shared a short reel on how I coffee dyed and prepped these pages in advance to make sure that I had them ready for when I created this journal. This journal I will be using for the Take4 series from Open Journey. This will be for the Lent themed devotional titled Closer. So I'm going to be using this for the 40 days of Lent. Disclaimer, this will probably also be a two-part process video. The first video, obviously this one, will be how I created this. And then the part two will be the embellishment part of this journal. But this is by no means perfect in any way, but I absolutely love working in a journal. My first journal that I created was for actually a Lent devotional themed from Open Journey as well. It was titled With You, and I just absolutely loved working in my journal. When I look back at some of the entries, I remember the season. I remember very vividly what I was experiencing that day. The only thing I probably will do differently is I will probably date my entries. Just because I kind of want to remember the exact dates, I guess, when I look back. But I enjoyed working through my junk journal so much that I even created some for the Beautiful series. So this was created for the first, second, and third devotional. And then this one was for the fourth, fifth, and sixth, which includes the Advent and the Lent one as well. So there is a Lent signature, themed signature here. So this was what the one from last year. So I'm just really excited to see what God does in the next 40 days. I will try to upload as many process videos for those journaling entries because I do plan to do journal once a day. So hopefully that happens. But so yeah, as you can tell, my sewing machine it's not perfect. Is not perfect, but I love it. My sewing machine broke, so halfway through this project, it just gave out. It just did not want to sew anymore. It didn't matter if I rethreaded the bob and the bin or whatever that's called. I'm not a crafter, and that my crafting, I guess, venture does not go into that field. So I could probably restore it, but I just ordered a new one off Amazon. So it's one of those $50 ones from Amazon. But yeah, so I'm not really worried about this just because if you notice, my covers usually have a big cluster. So I'll probably recreate one here as well on this part. So most of it will probably be covered up. It's probably not going to bother me in the future either. Again, now if you are a person of, being a perfectionist or, doing things properly, this video will probably irk you because it's by no means perfect in any way. No measurements were done. Everything was just kind of eyeballed and kind of, done in a very fast, just threw it all together. So, and that's how I liked it. That's how I created my very first one. That's how I created these, and so I will continue that with this. I just love the grungy feel of it as well. So if you want to see how this came together, again, it's really easy. Once you see how I created it, you are more than welcome to recreate your own with your own tweaks, with your own adjustments. And I would love to see if you create your own. It would be really, really amazing. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started. And again, I want to remind you that this will be a two-part video. This is the making of the journal, and then part two will probably be the embellishment. So let's get started. Okay, friends, I am putting this video on double fast forward just because it was so long, and I did end up trying to edit out as much as I could. Okay, so this was the first beautiful journal that I created, and in this one, I attempted something different from the first one, which was to actually sew the signatures onto the journal, but I didn't quite like it. I didn't like that I couldn't add any more pages or remove them if I messed up. And so then I did this. Then I sewed the signatures together, and then I added it onto a string of sorts, kind of like a traveler's notebook. And the reason I'm showing you that is because my attempt is to do kind of like a cross of that. So if that makes sense. Now I am using whatever cereal box I had laying around. I just happen to have frosted mini wheats. My family likes it. So now the parts that I am going to cut off, in case it wasn't evident on the video, are the sides of the cereal box where there's an overlap of their boxing, where it's kind of two pieces glued together. So I'm going to remove those and keep the bind, or keep one of the sides of the box that, that's attached properly, I guess, to both sides, that is just one continuous box, I guess. So that there's no like weird edges or anything like that. Now you're more than welcome to use every bit of the box, but I just decided that I preferred that kind, or that side of the box for the spine of my journal. I am going to attempt to try to use that We Are Memory Keepers, I guess, I'm not sure what it's called, paper cutter, but it didn't quite fit. It was way too big. So I'm having to kind of play around with the cardboard of the cereal box to try to make it fit into the 12-inch spacing that, that it's on there. So I might just need to get a bigger one, but I don't use it enough, or I don't use I guess larger paper enough or as often, so I probably shouldn't. I probably could have just cut it down to make it fit, since I'm still cutting it down to size. I am using one of my old journals that I created as a size reference, to try to kind of get the same size. Hindsight, I probably should have left it a little bit bigger, just because of the intention I had of sewing on the strings onto the spine instead of having them overlap towards the back like I did in one of my journals. Just because I was gonna need enough space for the size of the paper that I wanted to use. You'll see that towards the middle of the video, where I had to cut down the piece of paper. So the paper size is a little bit different, but all in all, it's still functional. It's still gonna work. So if you like precision, you can fast forward this part. The only reason I have a ruler was just so I can get a feel for the center of that piece of the cereal box that I am using to kind of use as a marker or as a guide. But I'm not using it to measure the actual distance. This is going to be like a template of where the holes are going to fall in the spine, so that it kind of lines up and is kind of, because I do want some symmetrical feel to it. I just don't want it to be completely, off course, like, 2 inches to the left or whatnot. But I do want it to have some, decency of, looking like a journal. So I am using this, I guess, ruler contraption. I'm not really sure what it is. To draw straight lines, because I couldn't find my ruler. I don't know what I did with it. Things happen. But so that I am placing to the side until I am ready to actually construct my journal. Now this step right here is completely optional, but I didn't like when I first created my first journal, that some of those images came through, even when I applied the fabric over it. So here I am actually showing you that none of those images kind of showed through. They're not as visible when I put the fabric over. Now this is the side that I am going to embellish. This is the side that is going to be on the inside, so I'm going to cover it anyway. So completely unnecessary if you don't like it. That's my preference. I don't want any of that to kind of show through at all, just because it's so bright and I feel like it'll clash. This was funny. I did not realize till after I was done with the video and editing and with the journal that I didn't use the brackets or what the eyelets and so I did intend to use them. I put them to the side and I completely forgot about them. I'm not sure why. This is what I mean. I intended to use the same size of the booklets from the Take4, because I kind of wanted to just be able to put them in there. However, I misjudged the size. I totally forgot that that was my intention. So, but all is well. And now there are various ways that you can create the circles or the hole punches, where my strings are going to go. I opted for this, I guess, tool. It actually is to create your own book binding, but you can use the crocodile, I think it's called. But or you can just use a pen, whatever you have. It doesn't need to be fancy. I just happen to have it. I am ironing out the fabric. This is from Hobby Lobby. It is an all natural cotton fabric. I think it was like $5 a yard. So I'm just gonna iron it out, make sure that there's no wrinkles or anything like that. It's just my preference. If you like it wrinkled, go ahead and do you. But I did not personally want it on there. I am gonna just eyeball the size of this. I know. It doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be done. But I am going to use that contraption ruler again to kind of measure and keep somewhat of a straight line, so I don't just start cutting off and making a bigger mess of my fabric, because I do kind of want to keep using as much as I can, and so I don't want to be wasteful. So I am going to cut off enough for the outside cover of my journal. So this is, what is that? What was that? The matte medium from Golden. And this is going to be what I use to adhere the fabric onto my cardboard or the cereal box. I had used, like in the beginning and the intro, the Barely Glued Art bottle. And because it seeped through the fabric, I was not a fan of that, and I'm not really sure. I don't really remember what I used to adhere the fabric in my other journals. It could have been Mod Podge. Don't remember. But I went ahead and used matte medium just because I know that it works as a glue and it helps adhere fabric to cardboard or wood, and so it works really well, and it doesn't leave streakiness, or it doesn't leave like wet marks once it's dry. So I opted out for matte medium. I do want to advise that if you have a brand new container or bottle of the matte medium, don't dip your brush. It actually makes it go worse, bad faster. But mine's running out, so it doesn't quite come out as like it should. So I don't mind that mine is gonna go bad, because I'm gonna use it up before it goes bad anyway. I usually pour it out into some palette for me to use. Now, this step is completely unnecessary. I just kind of wanted it to look nice at the edges of the corners. You can use those really pretty Tim Holtz corner brackets to embellish your journal. But I just like when it looks, like I said, I love the grunginess, the feel, the look, the aesthetic of it. And so I am going to do my best to make it look presentable. Again, no measuring. I apologize if it's irking you, if it's irritating you, but like I said, done is better than perfect. That's my motto, at least even at home, even with my children. So it doesn't matter if dishes don't go where they're supposed to. As long as they're in the kitchen and somewhat in the cabinet where they're supposed to go, done is better than perfect. But I will adhere the bottom and the top as well as the sides, and I do somewhat fold the sides, like I mentioned earlier, to make it look somewhat decent. I am cutting off excess fabric just because I don't want so much bulk. I do mind that part of it. So but I do leave enough fabric as an overlay, because I'm going to leave it exposed for a little bit, even after I put the inside covers. because I'm gonna add an attachment or like a way to keep it closed, like a ribbon or something, some type of elastic to keep it closed once I start journaling in it. Now this step, I'm not sure that it's, absolutely necessary, but I didn't want those holes to kind of close up with the medium or the fabric. I wanted it to still be, somewhat easy for me to be able to access it once all the fabric was on there so that I could put the thread to. So every time I did anything to the actual box or the cereal box, I made sure to go back with that little bookbinding needle tool to repoke and open up those cavities that I made on the spine. What you just kind of saw me do was kind of work the cereal box and kind of bend it all around on the edges. And the only reason I did that was to make it pliable and to make it soft so that when I run it through the sewing machine, the needle didn't have such a hard time going through fabric and the cardboard box itself. You did see in this video, I did the sewing off camera, but when I came back, I kind of showed you when my sewing machine just decided to die on me. So, things happen. Again, I am not overly obsessed about the fact that this needs to be perfect. I love the grunginess of the junk journal type of idea, and so that is actually what I'm going for. So I don't really mind that it didn't finish, but I am going to do some sewn elements, so I did make sure to order a new sewing machine. So that is en route to me as we speak, or as I'm editing this video. So these are part of the scrap fabric that I happened to cut off from earlier, or the other side of the other half of the cover. And so what I'm doing here is just trying to make it fit without so much fabric overlay, because again, I don't want the bulk. I do want the inconsistencies, the imperfections of it, but I don't want to create bulk out of the fabric. I'm not sure why that is so important to me, but it is. So again, I am using the matte medium to adhere the fabric onto the inside. Now this is the inside of my journal. So like I mentioned earlier, using white gesso over it, completely optional. It will be covered up not just by fabric, but by artwork. And I usually use the backing of the add-on items from Ingrid from her shop. So I remove those from the packaging, and that's what I use to create my layers or the backs. You can also, if you've purchased the digital kits, print out some of those background artwork that's all included in those files. Send it off to Office Depot if you need be, if you don't have a good printer, or a printer that prints in good quality. But print it in some heavy cardstock and use that as some of your inside covers, I guess, to embellish and cover these up. So I am gonna leave some room on the edges, and I'm not gonna glue it all the way down, because again, I am intending to add ribbon to so that it would be the I guess the closure snap, or the elastic closure for my journals. I just like that look. I am being a little heavy-handed in the amount of matte medium that I'm using for the inside. I just want to make sure that the cloth is really glued on and secure onto the cereal box. I don't want it to fall apart, especially being on the inside, or the outside. I don't want the fabric to fall off the cereal box. So I'd rather be safe than sorry, so I am adding a whole lot of matte medium. I did go ahead and make sure that the holes on the spine were, I guess, went back and made sure to push the little tool through, to make sure that there was no clogs, it wasn't closed, it was easy for me to push the needle through with the thread. So that's what you saw me do just a few seconds ago. I am using, this is very apparently good quality thread. It's that waxy thread that you use for actual bookbinding. This is just what I had. used twine before. I've used just cotton. I'm sorry, not cotton. I've used whatever I've had. But this is what I ended up finding in my stash after we moved from my old house into the new one that we are in now. I'm not sure when I got this, when this was purchased, but I found it, so I made sure to leave it out for my future, junk journals. Here, it kind of just looks like one big old mess, and it really was, because I ended up tying two different strings together and having to rethread, which I edited out. I'm sparing you from that. But as I was threading each string per se, I probably should have just tied it to make sure that, I wasted more thread than I should have, because I should have, just tied it off as I was sewing the string onto the spine. But my not so rational reasoning is that I wanted to make sure that the elastic had some give, so that when I start adding paper to the string and to create my signature, there is still a lot of wiggle room, I guess, or space for me to slide the papers in and out easily, especially when you start creating on those papers. They kind of tend to be more difficult to slide in and out, or at least for me, because I do take out the paper. I do slide out the paper to create on it. I don't actually create in my journal on the page. When it's in my journal, I actually take it out. So this is what I mean is I'm making sure that it's tight enough so it's not, sliding out of the string, but that it's, it does have some wiggle room, so that when I start creating, I can easily slide in the paper in and out. And putting my journal to the side, I am now going to cut down the paper, the coffee dyed paper that I prepped last week, to size. Again, it was a little bit shorter than I had anticipated. I should have probably measured out the paper first and then work my journal around that, the measurements at least, but it's fine. Here, all I'm doing is I'm separating the papers that have less splatters or splotches, because I want each signature to have a good, to distribute the splotches with the papers that have less, just to give it variation and to make sure that it's kind of balanced between each signature. I do have 5 strings, so I am putting about 3 to 4 pages in each signature, which gives me a little over 40 pages front and back, to create during this 40-day Lent season. So not every day will I be creating something. Sometimes it might be a prayer. Sometimes it might just be, a scripture that I'm going to stamp out. But I am now putting all the papers into my journal. And this is the final product, or the final look. So this was really, really fun. I really do enjoy making my journals and working in them. So I'm excited for Lent. I hope you are too. So this is an example of what I was mentioning earlier, why the white gesso is not necessary. I used the backing of Ingrid's add-ons of her products as kind of like the background. And so I did mention about using probably her digital files as well. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that you create your own and show me and tag me. Let me see how you're going to be creating for this Lent season. But hope to see you soon. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye.